Hi and welcome. Thank you all for joining us today in one of the most special interviews that I will ever conduct, I'm sure. And you're going to find out very quickly why that is. Today I'm interviewing WBFF PRO Ciara Martinez, also known as @KetoGoddessMama on Instagram. Hi, Ciara, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me today.
I'm so excited. Ciara, can you share a little bit of a background with our audience about your story, which is just so incredibly inspiring? I mean, any excuse anybody has watching this interview, by the end of it, you're gonna be like, I can't keep doing what I'm doing, because if she can do it, then there's just literally no excuse.
Oh, thank you for that. That's very nice. Yeah, so basically, about 6 years ago, I kind of hit rock bottom. I had my second child. When he was 6 weeks old, I broke my leg. 2 weeks after that, my ex-husband found out we were getting transferred across country. So here we are moving across country with a broken leg, a newborn baby, and a toddler. So yeah, they're only 22 months apart, where we know no one, basically. So all these factors together kind of had a downward spiral effect on me. I've always struggled with anxiety and depression, but it was just so bad. Like, I didn't want to get off the couch and change the kids' diapers. I was heavily trying to self-medicate with alcohol and food, using food as therapy, alcohol to numb out. It's a blur, honestly, girl. It's honestly a blur, but I was so unhappy. I was 225 pounds. I hated myself. I had no energy. And like I said, every day was just a straight up struggle. And I knew something had to change. So I started with group fitness classes in the gym. That was a good intro for me, because it's like, be here at this time. You kind of meet the people in the classes and you go. Started losing weight. I was also working in the gym at this time. I started working at the gym in childcare so I could take my kids with me to the gym. And then I got into weight training probably about 6 months after that. Then it's a long story. Would you like the whole thing?
Yes, the whole thing.
But through this, we're losing the weight. Then I started working outside of the childcare in the gym, and under my, still to this day, mentor, he taught me everything I know about training hands-on wise versus, cert wise. And my mindset totally shifted around, lifting weights and what it actually takes to change the physique. And it took going through it all to do that. And this is after years of serial yo-yo dieting. Like, I'm talking your weight loss pills from Walmart that make you poop all the time. I'm talking about those teas. I'm talking about your juices, paleo. I mean, anything you could think of. Weight Watchers, I had tried. And finally, something was working. And I was like, I need to share this with people because this is what works. And did I mention that I did keto during that? And I started following a keto diet. This diet worked for me because I had severe binge eating disorder, and I would binge eat keto foods, honestly, in the beginning, but eventually your body kind of adjusts to high fat, and I would get so physically sick from like putting down half a keto cheesecake that I was like, no, we can't do this anymore. But yeah, so that's pretty much the journey from the weight loss journey.
And you were taking antidepressants and anxiety drugs, right? Can you share a little bit about that?
Yes. So I was diagnosed by a psychiatrist, borderline schizophrenic, bipolar depression, and anxiety. So I had never been diagnosed with this previously in my life, but I know that I struggled with it like the entire time. They put me on 4 medications that basically did nothing for me. It made me feel numb. Like, I didn't feel anything. Like I said, I didn't want to change the kids' diapers. It didn't help at all. And I tried it for about 6 months, and I was like, this is not working. I'm not feeling better. I'm feeling worse. I would tell them, they're like, oh, we'll just change it. They would just give me another prescription. There was no other avenue of, healing there. So, I decided I was going to take myself off the medicine because they didn't agree with it. That's a bad idea. Don't do that ever. The side effects from that are like vertigo, brain shocks, body shocks. You feel like you're getting electrocuted. I'd be sitting cooking and I feel like a shock in my whole body. And I was like, this is not going to happen. Just one moment.
Yeah.
So then I felt like a drug dealer or something, like cutting the pills in half and slowly weaning myself down. Then I cut them in fours and weaned myself down. It took me about 6 months to get off everything the right way.
Yeah.
And this was not under doctor's supervision or approval, but I knew it wasn't working for me.
Yeah.
So
you said it was under your doctor's supervision, cutting down?
Not to get off of it. They did not want me to get off of it, but I knew deep down.
Even though it wasn't working.
Right. Correct. So
yeah,
I knew deep down it wasn't working. And I was already going through the exercise, starting doing all that, changing the diet. And I was like, this is a factor that is not working in my life. It is not doing anything to contribute to me. We've got to get it out of here. So,
yeah. Yeah. I've always wanted to ask you about the borderline schizophrenia. Like, what are some symptoms? Because I feel like that's very rare, at least around me.
So basically hearing people talking to you, which is, I almost want to cry talking about it because it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
And being so scared to even go outside of my house because I think someone's outside trying to get in and break in and stuff like that. My husband worked as the restaurant manager at the time. So it was me and my 2 children, Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Like I said, no one. It's kind of crazy down there. I know you're from the area, but there's certain areas, and I wasn't familiar with anything. And I was just scared, and I would hear things and have conversations with people that weren't there. It's sad, but it's better now.
So your mental health, how has it been impacted after you went through the whole exercise and diet transformation, lost all that weight?
Oh, it's night and day. Now, the exercise and nutrition is a key part of it, but the mind is a muscle too. So I still, to this day, every single day, do something to improve the mind. So I'm constantly working on personal development with podcasts, audiobooks, things like that, because my mind still fights me. All that negativity and crap still comes in every single day. And if I have to get up immediately and turn it on to block it out and get myself in the right frame of mind. The mindset before was, why me? Poor me, this, that, and the other. I mean, just very victim, mentality. And I was like, girl, you got to get over yourself, basically. Like, it's not anybody else, it's you. And this sounds corny and cliche, but it's you versus you. And I still say that to myself every single day, because no one can do the work that that needs to be done but you. Now, you can have helpers along the way, 100%, but no one can do that work except for you.
Yeah. Very well put. Yeah, and being in that victim mindset, you're the only person who's suffering. You're not gonna get any better, and it's just a miserable place to be. And it's like, why not you? There are people who have it way worse. So
Exactly.
So let's talk about the diet and the exercise and the dedication. Like, what does it really take to be able to lose all that weight and then eventually compete, and then you won your pro card? What is the level of intensity that people need to get after? Because I feel like, especially, like, I talk a lot about the carnivore diet and health and stuff, and I feel like a lot of people look at the carnivore diet as a hack, as like, it's like the next thing. Keto didn't work, I'm still binging, so maybe now a carnivore is gonna work, And I feel like a lot of people in my world, if you want, that are talking about the carnivore diet, they're like, just don't count calories, you don't need to exercise, just eat meat, and that's the end of that. And then people come to me and I'm like, I'm struggling, I'm still having cravings. And so my thought process on it is that, don't look at the carnivore diet as a cure. You still are going to have the cravings. You're still going to have a lot of those things, because overall you have to be like all in, and you have to do way more work than you ever thought you needed to. So I wanted to see if you agreed with that. And I think you do.
100%. I get asked that a ton, and I'm like, I think people greatly underestimate the amount of work it takes to achieve a physique like I have over the years, and not to just achieve it from a regular body standpoint, but from 225 pounds. Now, would you like me to go into an initial weight loss client or someone trying to compete? Because that level of commitment and intensity is totally different.
Let's do somebody who's trying to compete, because I know, at least for me, when I'm cutting down, which is what I'm doing right now, I do it the same as if I'm competing, like, except for the posing practice, I just go all out. And that's what I give my clients too. And I feel like when you do that, it's when you give a little extra than what you absolutely need to, you almost guarantee success.
Well, now let me preface in saying that everyone's body is different. So what it takes one person to get to stage is totally different than another. Some girls need 2.5 hours of cardio a day, plus their weight training and an extreme deficit. I'm talking low calories, to get their physique to a level of conditioning that is competitive, right?
Yeah.
I've seen other girls cruise into stage on 3 30-minute sessions of cardio a week and 1,700 calories. So it's completely different on body type. And this goes the same for traditional weight loss clients. What's going to work for me might not work for you. And that's, I think, the benefit of doing what we do, is that we really get to know people and get in there and find what's going to work for them and what they can stick with. Because what it comes down to is, like, who cares if you lose 50 pounds in 6 months if you're just going to go start eating crap again and gain it all back and more and feel worse? Because sadly, that's a statistic of the majority of, weight loss in the world. But yeah, so for me personally, I have to do about 6 days a week training, and the training time is 2.5 to 3 hours. Cardio starts a little lower. Right now I'm in prep, far out. I'm 19 weeks out. I started 2 weeks ago. My cardio right now is 4 times a week at 45 minutes. As we get close.
It's intense. Just
yes.
So people know.
Yes.
Yeah, you're not walking for 40 minutes.
No. And if I do walk I do have to do some walking, but it's like incline treadmill, and it's not a walking part.
Right.
It's like you're full sweating.
Exactly. And so do you track steps on top of that? Do you have like steps goals?
I do right now just 8 to 10. And that's not set by my coaches or anything. That's just something I like to do to keep myself moving. And, I work from home. So other than the gym, there's not a lot of movement. It's just back and forth around the house. So if I don't, even with my cardio, if I don't track them, sometimes it'll only be like 6,000, 7,000. So I have to.
You have to track. Yeah.
I like to take all the data, all the variables. I mean, in order to be successful in competing, you have to. So.
That's so cool. I just interviewed, I don't know if you know, Corey Hagman. She's an IFBB pro. I interviewed her maybe like 2 weeks ago, and I've been watching some of her YouTube videos and interviews, and she shares so much. She shares about this Excel sheet that she does, and she plugs in every single variable. If you use the bathroom every single day, how many hours of sleep you get, like the exercises and how much weight you lifted. And I started doing that. It's been 2 weeks, and it's literally a life changer.
That's awesome. I'm not that detailed. I need to step my game up.
Yeah, I'll send you the Excel sheet, like it's already prepared. I'll send it to you, and that way you can just plug in your stuff. It is a life-changing tip. And I feel like in the past, I used to feel like, well, I'm not losing as much as I need to. Maybe I need to do this. Maybe I need to do that. And then I go back, and now I'm looking at the caloric deficit I'm creating, plus the weight changes, they match to the decimal. And it's just the feeling that you get, a feeling like you're so in control. You cannot put a price on that. So,
and a lot of people, it's sad because they don't ever get there. And that's what I try to tell my clients. I'm like, give yourself the time, starting with these basic habits, right? Like, let's get the gallon of water in a day. Let's get ourselves physically in the gym 4 times a week, or whatever is going to work for you. Let's see if you can track what you're eating not on a diet. And it's just those tiny little habits, stacking on them, building on them. And we all have areas that we can improve on. Like, you just suggested one to me that I'm super excited to try this spreadsheet. So
total life changer. So I wanted to ask you about cravings and cheat meals. You do cheat meals, right? Like now, recently, after going
So
through the transformation. And actually, you've gone through the transformation twice because you just had a baby and you've
mhm,
had to lose the, post baby weight again, and
yeah,
you're
that was
almost there.
the last 6 months.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what that was, prepping the body to prep. And we've officially got all the baby weight off. So now we're just
Yay.
getting back to
Congratulations.
it.
Yeah. So how are your cravings or cheat meals? What's your take on that?
So cravings during the pregnancy, obviously, and probably 4 to 5 months post pregnancy were insane because the hormones were all over the place. I would be so physically ill during pregnancy. The only thing that made me feel better was like garlic bread and sandwiches, stuff I haven't eaten in years. And like I fought it. I fought it bad, but
Yeah.
then I would just have to eat it to feel better. But I'm proud to say I was able to stick to my meal prepped food about 70% of the time while I was pregnant. Cravings now have pretty much subsided as I've been able to fully adhere to my macros and get in the groove of that, except for pre-period week. Pre-period week, I am like a ravenous animal. And what I do with that is I've come up with a lot of fun ways to make healthy treats that satisfy that urge, basically. And it's like that's something else that women need to be tracking, like you talked about, so you can be prepared for that. Because I find with a lot of my clients, they're like, I don't know what's going on, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, it's the period again. Like it's
Yes.
coming every month, but we forget about it and act like it's not coming. Right now, I haven't had any refeeds yet. Previous to this, I have had refeeds and preps, and it's usually like a burger or a steak, sushi even. But that will only be at a point where my body needs a break for, metabolic adaptation later on. Right now, I have enough calories that I don't need it.
Can you share what is the caloric deficit that you're on right now?
Right now, my calories are at, so I'm getting about 1642 on leg days, and non-leg days were at 15, 15, 15.
Okay. So that would translate to like a 700 or 1,000 caloric deficit, or less than that, or more.
Probably more with my training,
Yeah.
because my training is pretty intense. And
Yeah.
there's different types of burners out there too. Like I said, the people that can cruise in on a lot less work, I'm not that. I have to get down low
Yeah.
and put out an extreme amount of work. And I think in the beginning, it did take me 6 shows to go pro. I was trying to halfway coach myself at the same time and thought I knew better. And I was like, no, I don't have to do all that. I look good. And I'm like, whoa, rude awakening. First time getting up there. Everything happens for a reason. I needed to do it. I needed to get in there, but whew, rude awakening.
Funny. Yeah. I feel like that's me too. I always feel like I can do it. I can do it. And then I always come back and be like, maybe, I could have saved myself some time. Yeah, but I get it 100%. And that's another thing, going back to the caloric deficit, is that the general recommendation that dietitians, and I was taught through dietitian school, is like 500 calorie deficit per day. It's like, yeah, good luck building momentum with that. You're not going to drop enough weight on just creating a 500 caloric deficit per day. And you're not going to be able to see drastic changes that are going to give you motivation and momentum to keep going, and have that discipline. Momentum gives you more discipline, gives you more mental strength to fight off those cravings,
100%.
So yeah, and that's why I always like to ask that question and just shed light on just literally what it takes. I mean, you're training hard several hours a day. On top of that, you are logging in the number of steps that is also increasing your caloric burn, and you're creating a massive caloric deficit. And that's what it takes to be able to hit your goals consistently and remain motivated and keep that momentum going. So yeah. Okay, so with regards to the refeed, so you don't do a cheat meal, you do a refeed. And so is that because, a cheat meal can be too addictive and can like trigger cravings for you? How do you approach that?
Generally, they tell me what to eat.
Okay, so you're just following the coach with, okay. And how often do they give you a refeed?
So last prep, I think I had 3.
3 refeeds? And okay, so in like a what, 16-week prep?
Last one was January to April of last year. So right, yeah, 4 months, right about.
For 4 months, you had 3. Okay, so that's, again, that's not like a cheat meal or refeed every week, which is what a lot of people feel like they need to do. That's another thing. For me, I don't schedule cheat meals, or, and even for my clients, you know, because a lot of the clients that come to me, like they identify with what I talk a lot about, which is binge eating, emotional eating, cravings. That's the stuff that I've struggled with. And so this is probably why people would reach out, because they feel like it's similar and they understand the addictive potential of those foods. And so if I give them cheat meal, or if I do it, then it just, I want more. Like I'd rather, yeah, I'd rather keep it as bland as possible, maybe spice it up a little bit, but not go crazy with like a cheesecake or like, you know, chocolate chip cookies, because then it's hard.
Oh, if
for
it
me.
was something like that, girl, I'd be right there in your boat.
Right?
Sugar is the devil, and I still struggle with it after all these years.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
It doesn't. Yeah.
doesn't ever go away. It's the
No.
same thing with binge eating. When I was pregnant, I would catch myself all the time just
Yeah.
eating to eat. Like, and I'm
Yeah.
like, girl, you need to rein this back in.
Yeah. For me, if I get stressed, you know, if I get into an argument and anything that stresses me out, it's like instantly my brain makes that connection. It's like, okay, I'm so stressed out right now. I need to eat something, you know,
Mhm.
and I'm thinking cookies or cake.
Yeah,
So,
I used to do that with stress and anxiety with the kids. And before I knew it, I would have eaten like a half a bag of roasted and salted almonds. I had this thing for roasted salted nuts. And I was like, I got to get these out of the house because I don't
yeah,
even know that I'm doing it. And you know, one handful of almonds is like, I mean, that's a lot of calories, 170 calories.
200,
That
lot
adds
more,
up.
yes.
So, girl, I feel you.
So what do you do with the snacks for the children? Do you keep them in the
So,
house?
so they don't eat like I eat all the time. Let me be very clear about that. I don't want to force any style of eating on them. We try to give them healthy foods. We say healthy foods and less healthy foods, not good or bad foods.
Yeah.
And they still have their macaroni and cheese and hot dogs and things like that. But they also eat asparagus, green beans, chicken, fish, sushi, oysters. I mean, they eat it all. For snacks for them, they have roasted nuts. We do lots of fruit. They love apples, bananas, berries, yogurt bowls, things like that. Yeah, that's pretty much how. So.
Yeah. So it's not crazy stuff that you would have to stack in the house and fight off 24/7.
Correct. All those little pre-portioned, like, you know, like puff things, all these little kid snacks, that's not in my home, period. Everything is made or I package, or because if I'm having a struggling day and that's there, you're going to go for it. Like set your environment up for success. And the same thing with like ice cream and stuff for the kids. I'm like, yeah, you can have ice cream every now and then, but we're not going to keep a tub in the freezer. We're going to make an event of it and go out as a family, and you're going to pick which one you want and get a little bowl of it and really enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think a lot of my issues came from a childhood as like kind of my family didn't have a lot of money. So sometimes food being in the home was an issue. We would have just like 20 packs of ramen noodles, like go eat ramen noodles for like 4 days. So when I would go to my father's house and he had all these delicious foods, it's like shove it all in as quickly as possible. And I really didn't want to create that for my children. I wanted to let them understand that you can have a little bit of everything and not go overboard, you know.
Yeah. That's so interesting.
And they can choose whatever eating style they want to go to, you know, in the future.
I never thought about it this way, but that has also happened to me, because we would go through phases. There were times where money was so tight that we would not have enough food in the house, you know, until my mom got her paycheck. Like my mom literally had to go work in a restaurant, like prepping food for like 2 years, because like my dad's business went down, and you know, we had stuff like they could sell and make money, but until they were able to sell it, there was just no money coming in, and she had to take that job. And I remember like the days leading up to her getting the paycheck, like it's just very low on food. And so I've never it never clicked for me until you said it. That's the same thing. Like when she would bring all this stuff, you know, do that shopping, it's like, oh my God, there's food, and you're just eating whatever. Yeah, you're afraid that there won't be any food, you know?
That's,
So
I went through therapy also during that time I was getting off the meds. And that's when I figured this out, where it came from. So
wow.
it's probably very possible that that's where it came from.
Yeah. Very interesting. Well, thank you for sharing that with us.
Of course.
Um, so let's talk a little bit about the reverse dieting phase, because I feel like I've only very recently really understood that you can't be in a massive caloric deficit and then go overboard, eat an extra 1,000, 2,000 calories right after, like the day after, and think like, it's okay, I'll just burn them off in the next 2 days. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
Your body is gonna, it's not gonna store only 2,000 calories. It's gonna be more. Your body fat percent is gonna go disproportionately higher compared to the calories that you've eaten. And it makes no sense, but I can vouch for that in my personal experience. So how has your experience been with that?
So this is how I do myself and my clients that I prep. We get you down to wherever you need to be to get on stage, basically. And then you have a week afterwards where I let them mental, physical break. So we're just talking like very light cardio, step goals, and maybe some elliptical, real simple, and where they are going to eat completely intuitively. Okay. So I'm just like, you completely listen to your body during this time. If you want this, you go get that, because they need that break. If you're talking about a stage person. Okay. Then we go into the reverse diet the following week. That's where we're going to slightly increase caloric intake on a weekly basis and watch their weigh-ins to make sure that we're hitting the right points going up. If we have a jump of like 4 pounds in a week, we know we jumped way too far, but that usually doesn't happen. You're in your body's in a state after being stage lean to put on body fat very quickly if you do not attack that post show like 2-3 weeks properly. I've seen it happen. I've seen girls put on 20-30 pounds in like a month after stage. And I was like, no, that's not going to happen to me, because, you know, I still do a modified keto diet, even in prep. And so those foods that they've deprived themselves of for so long, as soon as they get them back in, they're going crazy. Well, I don't ever have those foods. I didn't have my first taco until after I went pro in Orlando, and I felt so guilty about it, but I sucked that thing out, girl. It was delicious. But you know, I don't have to worry about it as much, because I kind of just go back I eat the same thing and just up the portion sizes, you know, for my caloric intake. And I do the same thing with my calories. It's a slow progression. We want to get that weight. And it also depends on what their goals are. Are we going back into a prep? Are we going into a build? You know, what are we trying to do next? And it's so individualized.
Yeah. Well, what percent body fat for you works best to, or like when you got your pro card, what was your percent body fat?
6.8.
6.8? How did you track it?
Just their InBody. So not the 100% most accurate. It's not a bod pod or a water tank or anything like that. But I think as long as you're using the same form of tracking along the way, you're getting a pretty good read of it. So it can be off by 2 to 3%, but
right.
I mean, my skin was like, I mean, you could see it, veins everywhere, and just.
I've seen the pictures. You look incredible. Yeah. Okay. And in off season, so when you're not competing, what do you like to keep your percent body fat at?
So not post pregnancy.
Yeah.
I feel good at around 12, 13.
Yeah.
Right now I'm 15. So the body is still adjusting, because we're still only 6.5 months post pregnancy. So we're looking to bring that down, but I've also put on a significant amount of muscle, because I did train the entire pregnancy, and we can see the different shapes now versus this weight before. So I think the stage weight will be a lot lower. The body fat might actually be a little bit higher, because I might be able to do that with more muscle.
Yes. Yeah. Because when you have more muscle, it fills up the skin and it looks
Exactly.
as if you're leaner, so you don't really have to drop your body fat as much.
Mm-hmm.
And how do you handle the very low body fat phase? Like, because you're going to be more tired, like how is it for you and how do you stick to it?
Well, I can explain it. You know, have you heard of pregnancy brain?
No, never been pregnant.
Well, it's kind of like you're just not all the way there all the time. You do really dumb things. Your cognitive function is just severely impaired. Like it takes me like 20 minutes to type a paragraph response to a client versus 2 minutes. One time I left the remote in the refrigerator, couldn't find it for a few days. One time I cooked my eggs in the morning and I left the stove on the entire time I left and went to the gym. Hands and feet are constantly ice cold, even in our 100+ degree summers here in Texas. And you just don't naturally, you don't move as much. Like you find yourself not talking as much.
Yeah.
Like kind of laying down all the time. The body just kind of almost shuts down to that, you know, you're in that routine to conserve all that energy for the training, and everything else is just like and that's pretty much, you know, a lot of people don't realize that about prep, but prep has to be the main focus, and you have to have all your other stuff in line and the set schedule and routine to make everything work. And in the end, it does get difficult, especially with 3 kids.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Your mood is definitely affected. You're a little bit on edge, a little bit more, I would say, for sure. I have to watch. I just have to zip it sometimes. I'm just being straight up honest with you, because you don't even, you're not thinking clearly, you know?
Yeah. Do you feel that it gets easier though, like the more you prep? Because I've heard like other competitors say that, you know, your first prep is probably going to be the hardest, and then eventually like you know what to expect and you're prepared and it gets easier.
And if you've went through a successful prep, you don't have all those limiting beliefs in your head, or, you know, like, am I going to be good enough? Am I going to get there? Because you know that you've already went the process and you've seen what can happen, so you trust it. Like, so I'm not like body checking every day in the mirror and stuff like that. The first prep is hard, but again, a lot of people do it one time and they're like, this is not for me. It's like you either love it or you hate it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you got to have a reason for why you're doing it, you know, not just like, I want to lose weight, so I'm gonna, you know, compete. It doesn't necessarily, you know, you could lose weight without having to go through those last few weeks where it's like just really dragging yourself.
And you get the clients sometimes, they're like, well, I want to look like you, but I don't want to compete. And I'm like, do you really? Because do you want to know what it takes? Let me lay it out for you.
Yeah.
Because if you go through all that work, you better get up on stage.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. I feel like they would say that, but you know, once they actually look like you, it's like putting all the work and the discipline that it takes. Like I feel you better compete. You better showcase that work. Okay, let's talk a little bit about the cycle. I remember one time I reached out to you to ask you, do you still have your period? Because you know you're getting so lean, and I think that was right after your competition. And you told me that you never lost your cycle, which I thought was very interesting, because the vast majority, I would say over like maybe 75%. I don't know where I read that, don't quote me on that, but I remember it was like a study that somebody did, and that they polled competitors, and it was like 75% of them lose their period once they're so close to stage weight. So, and most people don't do keto. They're doing the rice and they're doing the carbs. And so I thought that probably maybe that was a reason, you know, for why you didn't lose it. So could you share a little bit more about that?
I honestly couldn't share why. I don't know why I didn't lose it. I feel very blessed that I was able to get down that low and do it. I know I take a long prep versus, you know, if someone's getting in there doing an 8 or a 12-week prep, you're going to be going a lot harder, a lot faster, a lot more shock on the body. So that could have something to do with it. Obviously, genetics are always going to play a role. I will say that towards the end, I still have the periods. They don't come like perfectly every month. I noticed towards the end of the last prep, they started coming a little bit earlier, a couple of days, a little bit earlier, and they were lighter. So 2 or 3 days versus, your 5-6 day, which is
Right.
actually nice.
Right.
And the symptoms, your PMS symptoms, your bloating, all that stuff, much more mild, surprisingly enough. And I
Yeah.
noticed that in general with weight loss, as I lose weight, all the period symptoms get a little bit better. So.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I would say it's the same exact thing for me. If I gain weight, my cramps are just terrible. So I know that it has to do with like the inflammation of having excess fat cells. For me also, I really noticed that if I am just even a tiny bit constipated, I have the worst cramps. I have to like be 100% like every day, go regularly, and that's how I can almost have no cramps really. Which is something that I can finally, realize, and now I can control. Whereas in the past, it was like every time I would get my period, I'd be just in so much agony and so much pain, and I would eat
Shut
crap.
down. Don't talk to me for 3 days.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it would only, for me, thankfully, it would only last one day, but I would eat so much crap. And so like the next day I would stay in that cycle of eating crappy foods. So it really set me back. But that's just so cool to know that your cramps have gotten better just by, eating healthier and losing the excess inflammation from the excess weight. Let's talk a little bit about the rate of body fat loss. What percent body fat, or how many percentage points of body fat can you lose in a week? Like for you when you're prepping, what do you normally shoot for?
So it's really not. So, I compete in the WBFF. It's completely different than, your NPC physique and stuff like that. They don't care about, what your numbers are. They're looking for a shapely, pretty physique.
Yeah.
So my coaches, we don't really like to set a body fat goal. We're going for a look. So it's not like I need you to lose 0.5% every week. Right now, my body fat will go down one week and up another week, then it'll go down. That's my trend right now. But again, I think I still have some of those post-pregnancy hormones in there kind of affecting me a little bit.
Right.
And there's a lot of things to take in account when taking your body fat. Are you taking it at the same state every day? Are you fasted? Have you trained? Have you slept well the night before? There's so many different things that affect it. You need to get in there at the same time.
Right.
For your traditional client, I think it just depends on, where they are. Are they 50 pounds overweight and we're just getting back in the gym for the first time in 10 years? They're about to have some massive body fat loss and the newbie gains. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So many people would maximize on that. They would get all that momentum you're talking about. And it would just, I'm like, give me 2 months and just do everything I say. You'd be, but they don't. I'm like, if I could go back and I knew about those gains back in the day.
Right.
Oh, goodness.
Why do you think that they don't
recognize it?
Don't do it and get that momentum going, and
it's just, I think it's a lot of set in limited beliefs. I think it's leaning into my broken ankle or the way I was raised. I've told I was big boned all my life. These are just things that I've went through personally. They put more belief into their limitations versus what they're capable of. And I'm like, you're fueling what you want. I'm a very big believer in putting out there, what you want to get back. If I constantly say my ankle hurts and I'm propping it up and I'm doing all this, I have a rod and 9 screws in my ankle. And like, if I did that, would I go train every day if I was constantly worried about it, babying in it, not trying to move it, not trying to execute it? You have to think about it like that.
Right.
No, I'm going to go in and do what I can do. If it's bothering me, I'll go do something else that doesn't bother it. You have to have a solutions-oriented attitude. That mental shift did not happen overnight. Let me just be very clear about that. It takes time and practice. But, I've had several clients that get in there, they have good progress, they leave, they gain it back, and they come back, because it's just like they can't keep up the habitualness, without the accountability. And I'm a coach. I have 2 coaches. Like, I'm the same way. Like, I want to be held accountable. I can write all my programming, I can do all my check-ins and everything, but it's totally different when someone else is like, Hey, did you train today?
Yeah.
Hey, I need your weigh-in. Send me some photos. What are you looking like? Send me a picture of your dinner. If someone's
Yeah.
sending that, you're not going to go to Taco Bell. You're
Yeah.
going to make a nice salad and send it to me.
So true. You got to have a deadline on it because because you can always start again tomorrow, right? You can always use that excuse when it gets hard. And so you got to have a deadline, maybe even just schedule a photo shoot or do something, share your goals, with others.
Right.
You gotta have something that keeps you accountable, whichever way you can get that.
Yeah, I like to suggest rewards like systems for my clients. So if they have a big goal, again, say 50 pounds, at 10 pounds, I'm going to go, I never get my toes done. I'm going to go get a pedicure when I hit my 10 pound, at 20 pounds, pretty big deal. Let's go buy a new purse or whatever it is that you like. I did this for myself in the beginning and it really held me accountable because I was still not taking care of myself like I should. So like I hadn't got my fingernails or toes done in like years, things like that. And I was really into spin. So I think my 25-pound goal was some spin shoes. And my full goal was a breast augmentation. And I'll never forget the day I hit that goal, I called and made the consultation appointment. Because it was such a, it's like find something to put at the end that's really going to push you to work that you wanted. That's something I had wanted for years, especially after breastfeeding 2 children,
Right.
and all that weight loss. They're like, 2 balloons you find behind a couch after a birthday party a week later.
Right. How long did it take you to recover from that? How did you stick to the diet and stuff after the surgery?
At that time I was still kind of new in it. I think it was like a year and a half in the weight loss. And I was very scared because of all the medicine and things like that. So I prepped food for a week and had it all ready for after the surgery. And, the doctor knew that I was training all this. He was like, well, I can tell when I get in your body, he's like, your pec muscles were so strong. It took me actually longer to cut through them and stuff like that. And he's like, when I went back for my first checkup, he's like, you're going to be good to do, walking in like a week. You can do lower body, light, at 4 weeks, which is earlier than normal. And then full on training to where it feels comfortable at 6 weeks for upper body and things like that. So it's kind of the same thing that happened after pregnancy too. They're like, as soon as, you can lift and do whatever you want the entire time, because I was so doing that already. And so, conditioned, and they were like, discharge me. I'm like, can I exercise? They're like, you can walk. I went to my 1 week check-in. They're like, okay, you can do body weight and bands. And then at 4 weeks, I was clear to go back to the gym. So
wonderful. Yeah, and this is, especially after you get your breast augmentation, it's like you're rewarding yourself for getting into shape, for breaking those limiting beliefs that you had. It's like you don't want to go back. So it's kind of like easier to do that extra mile, even with the inconvenience of not being able to, train as usual. So you stick to it.
It was hard. It was another mentally challenging time. But I had books ready, I had documentaries on things saved because I knew I was going to be in the bed a lot. You just have to, again, it's being prepared, for whatever it is you're going to go through.
Talking about preparation, you prep your meals every weekend, every Sunday, and you've been doing it for as long as I've been following you, which is years now. I feel like I would be shocked if I go back and see like how long I've been following you, probably 3-4 years, because I feel like time passes so quickly.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe more. I don't know. Yeah. So
prep is the key for me. I really believe that, again, being prepared is key. I very basic things laid out. It fits my macros. It's all lined up. I know that if I just eat what's in there, I'm on plan. I track 1 time a week. I don't have to think about it. It's not that every day wake up, oh my God, I got to fit in my macros. Well, that's too much. I got other stuff that my brain power needs to go to. I don't want to think about that. Switching the mindset too, that, food is fuel. And you really have to think about it like that and stop using it as therapy for everybody, every celebration. Oh, I'm sorry, baby, you had a bad day at school. Let's go get an ice cream. I'll never forget. My daughter said that to me one time. I said, no, that ice cream's not going to make you feel better. Are you kidding me? We'll go home and put a puzzle together or do whatever and spend some time together, you know, I'm not going to go eat something else or go get something in a restaurant. I know I spent all that time and dedication prepping all that food. I know that I feel good when I eat that food. I perform well. And it's just, I can't imagine my life. But when I don't do it, or like, you know, it's a day or two behind, I feel like a crazy person. I'm like, we got to go get food and meal prep right now. Like this weekend, we're going to the beach. I've got all my food prep to take with me.
Right.
But I'm kind of stressing about when we get back, because we don't get back till Monday night, which means I got to go do everything like 4 days late, but we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Prepare. If you fail to prepare, you prepare to fail. I love that. And yeah, that's so true.
And, you know, in the beginning, I tell my clients, I'm like, you don't have to take it to my extreme, you know, just let's start with prepping your lunches for a week.
Right.
Or dinners for a week. So we're knocking out one meal. And, you know, it kind of, you realize how much easier it makes your life, how much time you spend thinking about, hey, honey, what's for dinner? Back and forth. Oh, I'm going to go to the grocery store and grab this, or where do you want to go eat? It just frees up so much time. Like, it's insane.
That is so true. Yeah. When you know exactly what you're going to eat, then you actually not only get healthier, you get in shape, but you also become far more productive, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I can vouch for that 100%. And we don't realize just how much time generally people spend just trying to figure out every single next meal, what I'm going to eat right now, or, you know, in 2 hours or whatever. And it's like, because it's also so addictive, it takes up even way more time, because you're also kind of fighting with yourself, because, you know, you're not supposed to be eating those foods on a regular basis. So it's a whole thing. You do not want to be there just for yourself, like you said, and, you know, create that mental space where you can actually put that towards a career, towards so many other things that are far more productive and meaningful in life, as opposed to just being so obsessed with the different drug-like foods, which, you know, they really are designed to be drugs. That's the whole purpose.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, they're literally scientists in labs right now putting food combinations together to make your brain go ping, 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 ping.
100%. Yeah, it's called the bliss point. They literally have to try out so many different recipes, try them out on different volunteers, and see which variation of that recipe secretes just the right amount of dopamine. It can't be too much and it can't be too low. There is a certain zone where that is the single most addictive variation of that recipe. They call it the bliss point. And once they achieve that, there's like, we got a winner. And then, you know, they put it on the market, and then they market it to us relentlessly. It's like literally cocaine that's legal, and market it to us starting from the time we're children.
I know.
It's
you know, we took cable out of our house. This is like on a little sidebar. And then we went somewhere, I don't know where it was, but they had cable. And so I haven't had cable in like years. And I can't believe how many commercials are food based. I'm just like, every other one is just like smacking you in the face. Go get this pizza, go get this Philly cheesesteak, go get this. I'm like, this is disgusting. Our country is this way for a reason. Like, it's just.
And then it's drug commercials. It's like, eat the crap and then take the drug.
For your migraines and yeah.
Right? It's insanity. And they pay so much money for all of those channels that those channels can't even put out programming tackling the obesity epidemic. I mean, 2 years of a pandemic, they barely ever mentioned obesity being the major driver. I mean, 78% of those who ended up in the hospital in like the bad prognosis with the virus, they were overweight. It was a CDC study that came out, and there was like literally, now if you Google it, there's like one article, I think it was CNBC, that's it. It wasn't like the programming that it deserved. It wasn't the attention that it deserved. That should have been the 24/7 coverage. That should have been the focus. Instead, no, they can't. Yeah, that's gonna threaten the bottom line profits of the people who are literally spending most of the ads, most of the money on the ads, and, you know, sponsoring those programs. So yeah. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about the carbohydrates. So I've noticed sometimes you add like a little bit of sweet potatoes, because I know before you mentioned that you couldn't even eat like even tiny bits of carbs, right? after doing, the transformation, doing keto and everything. So how has your transformation now with regards to your approach to carbohydrates been?
So I've basically just done experiments on myself at different points. So I did the sweet potato experiment a couple years back. I had, I think, like 4 ounces, and I went from nice flat abs to looking like about 6 months pregnant within like 20-30 minutes.
Oh, wow.
So my body, nope, no, that wasn't having it. The previous preps, I was able to get my carbs up to around 70, 100. In off season, I can have up to 120, 125. But this is including vegetables. I must be very clear about that, because I do track vegetables and like sugar-free sauces and things like that. Now we can incorporate sweet potatoes. I have one type of oats I've been able to slowly incorporate it. I had to start at half a pack and make it a whole pack. And I've tried sourdough bread, like it has to be like fresh made. I can have an ounce of that without feeling gross, but it's almost not even worth it. So I just I just kind of stick to what works. And for me, it's about having the carbs at the right time. So it's pre and post training always. If it's a rest day, it's before bed, because we want to get them in there for fuel and recovery, and that's it,
So when you do have a refeed day, what would a refeed meal, or I don't know if you're doing a full day, what would that look like then?
Generally it's like a cheeseburger and sweet potato fries.
Okay. And no bloating?
Oh yeah, I feel disgusting after it. But it resets everything. And I fought them on this, girl. Like this, I've only been the last year compliant, I would say, because I was like, I'm not eating that. I'm going to feel gross, blah, blah, blah. But it pays off, because yes, I feel gross for that night, but the next day in the gym, it's just like holy ham, hitting PRs, just going crazy. And when you're in that prep phase, you do need that mental break, that it just kind of resets the metabolism. Some girls get a diet break for a full day where they kind of just get to choose what they want. I can't do that. I'll have the issues like we were talking about earlier. Craving one meal usually won't do it to me, but again, there's no sugar really in there. True. It's funny, once you get all that sugar out, you start to really appreciate the natural sugars and foods and taste of things. I'm like, it's like having all that processed chemical-based food like almost dulls your taste buds down to what our real whole foods have to offer,
So true.
And if you can get all that out of there and start to appreciate it, it's just like, wow.
Yeah, this is one of the things that people who are addicted to food and who are overweight or obese, they don't understand, they don't realize that, you might eat a protein bar right now and think it's disgusting. But as you change your habits, your taste buds change. And then all of a sudden, the protein bar is like a cheat meal. It's like, it's absolutely delicious. It takes 10 days for all of your taste buds to be completely regenerated and renewed. And so in literally just 10 days, you can break that addiction to sugar.
I did not know that. That's so interesting.
Yeah. Super cool. Everybody watch Fed Up documentary. This is where they mention it. Dr. Mark Hyman, he's like a well-known guy in functional medicine world. And there's a bunch of really cool authors and doctors in that. And it's one of the best documentaries I've seen on just how powerful sugar addiction can be. I make my students watch it literally every semester. So yeah.
I need to check it out.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Ciara. I know that we are tight with time. You have 3 children, a full-blown coaching business, and you're prepping. So I'm just so grateful and thankful that you found the time to come on over and share your experience with us and just inspire everybody and destroy their excuses. So they're going to have a love-hate relationship with you, because now it's like you took away their excuses. Is there anything that we forgot to touch upon?
I don't think so. I just think that, it's important to remember that if you mess up, don't let it be that spiral. Just be like, okay, I did it. We're not going to dwell on it. Now we get up and try again and do the best we can with the day in front of us. I used to get sucked down that hole of like, oh, wow, I messed up. I just might as well go eat this and eat that. But no, you just got to wake up and look at every day afresh. get up going after it, put your best foot forward in every, aspect of your training, your nutrition, your life, and everything's just going to fall in place so much better. Like, I know I talk about training and nutrition a lot because I'm so passionate about it, because that was the basis of the entire life change. It wasn't just let me get a body. It's like those habits, those rituals, keep me off medication, keep the depression, anxiety down, and, help me show up in a way better for my clients, my friends, my family. That is the type of woman that I want to become, that I couldn't do if I couldn't nail down those simple things in the beginning. So I really just want people to remember that it doesn't matter how many times you screw up, you get the chance to start over every single day, and you have to just take it and run with it.
Wow. Love it. Thank you so much, Ciara. Where can people find you?
I mainly hang out on Instagram at Keto Goddess Mama. I have a Facebook, but I don't do anything of it. It's too much. I don't know how you do all the platforms. I'm like, maybe you do Instagram,
I do
YouTube.
The most of my work really is on doing YouTube, and then with Instagram, I guess, because I do like photo shoots here and there, so I'll have the pictures from the photo shoots and I post them, but I don't have like a strategy. I don't have like, this is the amount of posts that I need to do. It's just so easy to post on Instagram. You just, a story or a post. So, but I don't have like a plan and a goal that this is the amount of posts that need to go out. I mainly focus on YouTube, and I've noticed as I've grown my YouTube channel, it has gotten me so many Instagram. Yeah, exactly.
That's
And
great.
for Facebook, you can set your Instagram to automatically post everything to Facebook.
Oh yeah.
How I do it. I rarely even check my Facebook, but I know everything gets posted there as well.
Yeah. So, well, right now Instagram is the main place.
Awesome. I'm going to link it below. You have a very gorgeous looking and inspiring Instagram handle. So everybody needs to go and check out Ciara's at Keto Goddess Mama, her Instagram, and follow her and get inspired. So thank you again, Ciara, for coming over. I appreciate you. And thank you all for following this interview up until the end. If you enjoyed this kind of content, make sure you give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit that little notification bell icon so YouTube alerts you every time I post a new video. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one.